Hi everyone, hope everyone's well. I'm going to tie for you today a very well known pattern in competition called a Vampire Leech. It works all over the world. The creator, inventor of the pattern was a fellow by the name of Todd Oishi, who's been competing for probably 2 decades now, maybe longer. I hope Todd will correct me if I'm wrong. The name Vampire Leech came from chenille material that Todd used. It was called Vampire Vippy, and if I understand the description of what he gave me one day, it was similar to what we call today a straggle string. So the amount of piles per inch are staggered or straggled out, and this is what gave the characteristics to the leech and some legginess to the leech and some flow in it. So I'm going to tie for you, probably the most common pattern is with an orange bead head or a chartreuse bead head in olive, and typically the pattern was tied in olive and black, but there are definitely other color variations. The pattern is simple and very versatile. Todd, as I'd mentioned, has been competing in World Championships and Commonwealth Championships. He also hosts competition in central BC in the Merritt region called the North American Lost Style Championship. And I've seen this fly perform more than once under many different situations in many parts of Canada and overseas, and it is an absolute killer pattern. So I hope I don't get any of this wrong, but I do believe this is an original Canadian pattern, and most competitive people that I know, whether you compete or not, this is certainly a worthwhile pattern to have in your fly box. One, because it's simple and it's easy to tie. Now my tying technique or procedure is a little bit different than Todd's, but at the end of the day this pattern is the same, and that's what we're looking for. So I tie in a little bit of red flush and bring it down either side of the hook shank on some of my patterns, not all of them, but certainly many of them will have a little bit of flash in the tail. I'm going to cut that to length, and now I'll return to the eye of the hook. I know Todd likes to tie off the bead as much as possible at the front of the hook, and that certainly works. I just have a tendency to not do that. It's just a habit I think I've developed. I'll just tie in the micro leggy, straggle leggy. Now, to make it a little bit more bulletproof, and the fly will last forever, but if you put a little bit of head cement down on the hook shank before you wrap the chenille, it just improves the strength of the fly itself. So you can do hand over hand turns, or spin. If you have a rotary vise, just spin it. The other thing, if you tighten up by either spinning clockwise or counterclockwise, the core of the straggle chenilles, and see the core has gotten quite a bit thinner because it's tightly roped, and it just goes on a little nicer, again increasing the strength of the overall pattern. And now all I do is just go back and forth with tapering layers, just like we have done in the past with the Perdigon nymphs. And once I'm up near the front here, I'll pull everything back, do a single turn, pull all the leggy material back, go around the material once, around the bead once, around the material once, pull tight, and that sinks everything in behind the bead, and it's a good tight flat pattern. Now I'll do 2 3-knot whip finishes. And this pattern is virtually bulletproof, like I had mentioned. So that's a very popular color combination, olive with an orange, hot orange bead. I'll do a black one for you as well, and I'll do it with a marabou instead of a rabbit, but you can do either one. You could probably also play with other furs for the tail, even fox fur, I would think. So we just get a good solid base layer down, return our thread. I'll just grab a little bit of marabou. And I generally cut the tip out on the marabou, and then I'll take about a 3/4 of an inch piece like this and fold that over the stem itself. This now roughly is the amount of tail material I like to use on this particular pattern. And I'll tie it in behind the bead, move back down the hook shank, and then cut off. So the advantage of handling the marabou this way is I can just cut down the full length of the stem, 3/4 of an inch, and get some consistency to the pattern and the amount of material I'm using. So I tear off the tail. Don't cut marabou, just tear it off at that length. It's hook shank length. And then I'll just use a small piece of crystal flash in this case. Instead of the red flash glue, I'll just use a small section of crystal flash for this pattern. So you can mix and match this however you like for your own waters. So this is a very fine crystal flash that comes from Hens. It's absolutely stunning material. It's also twisted. So again, we'll return coming up, wrap crystal flash around the thread and then progress down the hook shank. And that'll just make sure that's well centered. And then we'll just go with touching tight turns moving forward behind the bead. Again, we'll cut this off tail length. And now we'll just add some black straggle leggy. As you notice, I had the last one in a bobbin, but you can just add it on straight off the spool. Or just take a length if you don't have a rotary vise. And of course, it's easier if you have it on a bobbin to twist or spin the leggy a little bit. Just pull that tight there. Take a wrap around the chenille and behind it, and then in front we'll do that 3 times. I just would finish off all my leeches in this fashion, and then 2 3-knot whip finishes. With this 6.0 nano silk, it's got a super high breaking strain, so I can pull tight and seat the knot around the hook shank and not around the material itself. So there you have it. That is a very straightforward Vampire Leech. Like I said, the straggle leggy, in my opinion, is about as close to the Vampire Vippy material on today's marketplace. And it is nice and leggy. It gives it a lot of flow. We played with this last year and quite a bit, and the year before when we got the prototypes of this material. And in my mind, it's made certainly a difference. And although this does not have UV in it, some people believe that smaller fish, under 3 pounds, have a higher ability to see UV reflectiveness than older fish. And smaller fish are just therefore quicker and easier to get to a UV lit pattern. So I hope this helps, and I hope you got something out of it. Thank you very much for watching.